I'm Albert Lee for Star Licks. Today I'll be playing a number of my licks and solos and showing the different techniques I use. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my equipment. Okay, I guess we'll start with this guitar. This is a Telecaster, as you can probably see. It's one of about 4 or 5 that I have, and it's probably the oldest one I have. No, actually I have a 52, but this is a 53, and it is my favorite, and it's more or less stock, as they say, except for the finish is gone, and I have put a phase reversal switch in it. It reverses the polarity on one of the pickups so you can get an out of phase sound. I use extra slinky, Ernie Ball extra slinky, except I use a 24 instead of a 22 on it. I found that the 22 is a little too light for me, although, you know, in general the whole gauge is, the whole set is a very light set. It's fairly light. I tend to look for light Telecasters. I do have about 5 or 6 Telecasters. They're not all Fenders, but they're all very good copies, and I do tend to prefer a lighter guitar. It seems more comfortable, and the sound tends to be not as hard as it would be with a really heavy guitar. This guitar, as you can see, has an autograph on the front and a lot more on the back. Has a lot of the signatures of people I've played with and people I've admired over the years. Some of my favourite players. It take too long to identify them all. Some of them are fading, as you can see, but it certainly is a collector's item. It's very much a favourite of mine. And as you probably see, I have some paper under the strings there because I'm have a nut fetish. I file them down too much, and the strings tend to buzz, but that's what happens. To raise the strings there. But as I say, this is a favourite of mine. Right, the next guitar is another big favourite of mine. It's a Gibson J200 from 1958, and it belonged to Don Everly, and he was very kind enough to give it to me. It's a prototype of, I suppose you could call it a prototype of the Everly Brothers guitar, which was made from like 62 or 63, I believe, but it was more or less a copy of this Gibson. And it's a great guitar, and it has a lot of character, and I like to use it whenever I can, but I don't like to drag it around the country because it's very fragile and worth a lot of money. Next, I'd like to show you one of my mandolins, if I may. This is, thank you, this is a Gibson from the 50s, and one of the few solids they made. And I have a number of other mandolins. I have a couple of Fender 4-strings, but this is one of a couple of 8-string solids I have. And I don't play a lot of mandolin, but I do enjoy it when I do play it, and I tend to do it mostly with Emmylou Harris. She seems to really like my mandolin playing. Nobody else asks me to play, but she does. So this is always a lot of fun to play. I enjoy playing mandolin, but I don't practice it very much, and I tend to do my practicing actually on the session when I'm asked to pull it out and play it, you know. But I always enjoy it. Right, next I'll show you the Les Paul. I had a Les Paul similar to this in '61. It was the first really good guitar I ever had, and I've always loved them. And in a moment of craziness, I sold it and traded it in for a Super 400, which wasn't me at all. But I managed to get another one, which I love. And in actual fact, Eric Clapton gave me this one. It's one of his guitars, and it's a guitar that certainly is a favourite of mine. And I think it's one of the best-looking guitars ever made. It always reminds me of a grand piano, and it sounds like one as well. This last guitar I'd like to show you is another Telecaster, but this is a special one. It has a pitch bender, a B bender, which is a mechanism built into the back of the guitar, which is operated by the pulling on the strap button, and it raises the second string a whole tone, and you can get steel guitar sounds. And this particular one was made by Phil Kubicki in Santa Barbara, and it has Seymour Duncan pickups, and it's one of 3 that I have, and it's a lot of fun. It's different. I'll show you some of the licks you can get on it later, but it's a good guitar. Okay, let's take a moment to tune up, and then we'll get started. Right, we'll start with the bottom E string. And the A string, which is the 5th string. And the 4th string, which is the D string. And the 3rd, which is a G string. And the 2nd, which is a B string. Finally, the top string, which is an E again. Right, hopefully we should all be in tune now. I've been using a Boss chromatic tuner now for the last few months, and it's been great. I don't know how I've survived without it. You know, I'd always thought that I was perfectly in tune on stage, but I've learned since using this, having it connected throughout the whole set, that after like half a song on stage with the hot lights, you know, the whole guitar will drift about a quarter tone down, and you wouldn't really notice it unless you have some reference point, and I found this has been invaluable. Now, if you take a look at the Starlicks manual, we'll begin with lick number 1. Right, many of you will no doubt recognize that as the intro of Country Boy, which a lot of people think that I've used a thumb pick on it, but I've never been able to use a thumb pick. It always seems to get in the way, and I use a flat pick and 2 or 3 of the fingers, whatever's closest at the time. It's not really a pattern that I use, it's just whatever happens to be close at the time. And now I'll demonstrate it slowly for you. Right, the next lick is the second part of the Country Boy intro that you've just learned, and I'll play it at the correct speed. Right, as you can see, that was mainly left hand work there. It was a lot of pull-offs, and I was using other fingers besides the pick, but it was mainly the left hand, and now I'll attempt to play it slower so I can give you more of an idea. Okay, this is lick number 3. Right, that was one of my licks attempting to sound like a steel guitar. What I'm actually doing there is raising the 3rd string a tone, pulling down with my index finger. And I've noticed a lot of people have trouble with that. It's easier to bend, most people to bend up that way, but I seem to be able to bend it back downwards, and it lends for a nice effect. Okay, Okay, here we go with lick number 4. Right, what I did there was it was double stopping and some bending, and also utilizing some open strings, and using my fingers as well as the pick. And I shall attempt to play it slower now. Okay, this is lick number 5. Okay, this lick takes double stopping a little further. It's what actually it is playing 2 notes at once. I think it's a violinist term, but you know, just playing parallel lines. You know, and this lick actually descends a scale and in parallel, and I'm using open strings and picking 2 strings at once, and it's 3 at some points there. Well, I'll play it slower. Okay, let's move on to lick number 6. This lick has a kind of a chicken picking machine gun effect at the beginning of it. I'm picking the 3rd string with the pick, and then hitting the final note with my finger, slapping it to give that extra. I'll play the whole lick slow and give you an idea. Right, this next lick is a variation on the chicken picking, and also finishes off with some double stopping as well. Okay, what I'm actually doing here is I'm picking the 3rd string with the flat pick, and hitting the top string with my finger, and again I'm pulling it to give it more attack, to give it that shotgun effect. But I'll show you again slower. In case you can't see it, what I'm actually doing there is picking with the flat pick, and I'm pulling with the little finger here. There are people, certain players who would use finger picks, but I haven't been able to get on with those. I use the fleshy part of the finger. You know, sometimes I use the nail, but usually the fleshy part of the finger. This is lick number 8. This is another example of double stopping, but this is the descending run, and I'm cheating a little here, because I'm not double stopping the whole time. I'm double stopping with my 2nd and 3rd finger, and then alternating with the pick. And at times it gives you the impression that I'm doing double stopping the whole time, but I'm alternating. I'll try and demonstrate. Just in case you haven't caught what I'm doing there, it's double stopping is hitting. What I'm doing most of the time is hitting notes that are like a 1/3 apart from each other, and picking them either with a pick and a finger, or 2 fingers. And I'm doing descending or ascending runs, and I'll try and show you something slow here. Okay, this is lick number 9. Right, you may notice that this sounds totally different to everything else I've done, and the reason being that I'm using a delay. And I'd always wanted to be able to figure this out, and I was never able to do it. I always was playing too many notes, and the art of it is to play as simple as possible, more or less play bass lines, 4 beats to the bar, and to set the repeat on whatever unit you're using to play back a beat and a half later. And it took me a while to figure it out, but let me show you how you find the spot where your repeat falls. That particular tempo I was playing at there, it's playing back at 319 milliseconds. But what you do is take it up to more or less 0 and find where the first repeat falls in between the beats of whatever tempo song you're playing. So imagine that as the tempo of the song, and you're hitting 4 beats to the bar, and you're finding a beat that falls exactly in between that. Well, I think we're all familiar with that effect, but what you need to do is get that same repeat, but a whole beat later. So you have to take it up to where it falls in between the next 2 beats. Which is round about there. And if you play a real simple line, I'll give you an example. I play something without it, well, like I just played actually. I'll play this. You have to play it really clean and directly on the beat. You can't make a mistake, otherwise you have 2 mistakes. Now I'll show you what it's like with the repeat. Well, you'll notice my ending wasn't quite as clean as I would have liked it to have been. The reason being I didn't have a foot pedal on and off switch handy. You really need that to have a clean finish. So directly you hit your last note, you need to kill the machine so you don't have the delay hanging over. But this is a really high quality unit, you know. But any unit would do the trick. You know, you just need a real clean repeat that you can adjust the timing on, and you need to really be definite in the notes you hit. They have to be directly on the beat, and if you can make them staccato, all the better. You know, it doesn't work with a lot of other instruments. Like if you're doing it with a saxophone or a violin, it wouldn't work. You know, it has to be real crisp notes to make it work effectively. Now, this is the same thing, but a lot slower. Okay, this is lick number 10. As you can hear, this is another lick utilizing the delay, the lexicon, and this time I'm double stopping, and I'll play it slowly so you can see what I'm doing. What I'll do, I'll play it slow without the lexicon so you can show what a simple lick it is, and then I'll put the lexicon on. Now with the lexicon. Right, for this next lick I'd like to change guitars and show you another telly with a pull string. I'd like to introduce my good friend Sterling Biff Ball, who's going to help me out on bass. And I'll tell you about this guitar. Now, this has a B bender, which is a mechanism in the back of the guitar attached to the strap button, which raises the second string a whole tone. So when you pull down on the neck, pulls this lever and pulls on the string and raises it a whole tone. And you can adjust the stop point of this with a little Allen wrench here, and that keeps it perfectly in tune, we hope. I'll just show you what it does. It enables you to get all those steel guitar licks that you always wanted to get. I think we're going to just run through a little thing here and hopefully we'll demonstrate it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you, Sterling. Incidentally, Sterling is the guy who answers all your letters at Ernie Ball Company. He makes guitar strings, and he also made that wonderful new Music Man bass. Okay, here's lick number 11. This is the kind of guitar I used on the record of C'est la Vie with Emmylou Harris, and that was more or less a solo that I played, and I shall play it again now a lot slower to give you an idea of what I'm doing. Okay, this is lick number 12, and I'll show this on the old guitar. You probably noticed that I was retuning there. I like to do things whenever possible with different tunings, like open tunings, especially on acoustic, but when I can, I'll do it on electric, either with a low D, or if I'm in G, I'll drop the A down to G and the D and the E down to D, as I've done here. An open G chord. Well, actually it isn't open because I left the E string where it is. But I'll show you that same lick a little slower. We'll move on to lick number 14. That was from an old Heads, Hands and Feet song called Hot Property, and that was regular tuning, except that the bottom string was tuned down to D. And I'll play it again slower. Right, here we are at lick number 15. This particular lick utilizes open string and double stopping, and I shall play it really slow so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm hitting, I'm double stopping here, and then I'm hitting this string, the third string open, and then a tone higher on the string lower, and then the two notes again. As with a lot of these things, it's a lot easier to play it fast than it is slow, but it's kind of back-picking and alternating between strings, but it's just a thing one can pick up with practice. Now the whole thing slowly. For lick number 16, I'd like to change guitars once again. Now, this is the Alsl guitar, and I have what is known as a high G tuning or Nashville tuning on this, which is actually regular on the top two strings. They're as they normally would be, but the next four strings, the bottom four, are an octave above what they would normally be. It's actually the octave strings from a 12 string, and this is what it sounds like. And it really adds a very light sound to a rhythm track. It's very nice to add it to another guitar, or if you don't want the regular sound of an acoustic guitar where it might be a bit too heavy, this really adds a nice light touch to it, and they use it a lot in Nashville, and they use it in Los Angeles too, I believe, but it's mainly a Nashville idea, but it's something that is always good to have around in the studio if you just want that different guitar sound. This tuning is mainly used for rhythm patterns, but because of the nature of the tuning, it's quite funny sometimes to play licks on it, because when you expect a note to go up, it goes down, and vice versa. As you can see, it can be quite entertaining and pretty baffling to somebody who's listening who doesn't know you have that kind of tuning on your guitar. But I'll play the same things slower so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. This is lick 17, and I'm going to change guitars yet again. This is the Gibson J200. I guess that's the kind of licks that I would do on Luxury Liner, and this is a guitar I like to play at home a lot. I use it on sessions, but it's good to practice on because it's not very easy to play. It has a high action and heavy strings, and it's good to get your fingers in shape. It's not particularly easy to play. I'll try and play that lick again a lot slower and give you an idea what I was doing. I'd now like to move over to the Les Paul. This is more of a blues feel than anything else I've played so far, and it would work really well in a regular blues 3-chord progression. And I'll play it slower so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, for lick 19, I'd like to go back to the Telecaster. I was utilising the out of phase switch there, which gives it that honky sound. I'll just show you what it does here. That's where out of phase. And that's in phase. You see it takes all the middle frequencies out there. And, it's particularly effective on a Telecaster more than any other guitar, just for some reason, because of the nature of the pickups. I'll play that lick a lot slower, so you'll see what I'm up to. Here we are at lick number 20. Right, this is the kind of lick I would play at the end of Country Boy, and as you can see, it's a descending run, and I'm sliding from position to position there, faking some of it. I'm not actually picking all the notes. I'm sliding into some of them, but it's a way of getting me from the top of the fingerboard to the bottom of the fingerboard, and I'll play it again slower for you. Well, this concludes the tape. I want to thank you very much. I hope you've gotten something out of it. I've really enjoyed it. And just remember to keep practicing, and most important thing is to get out there and play with a band. You can only get so far sitting at home. You really have to get the experience of playing with other musicians. And good luck, and thank you.